Hey, now we're live. Thanks everybody for returning to the Awaken Alive podcast. I'm Mike DeCroche, and on the phone with us today are Mark Smith, Chief Fitness Officer for Awaken Alive, and Daniel Spencer. Before we get started with today's interview, just want to remind everybody to visit the website, subscribe to our newsletter. If you do each month, you will receive a new 4-week movement and workout program programmed by Mark, along with a coupon code for 15% off everything in our store. But I guess with that, Mark, I will try not to fill this whole podcast with commercials. So take it away.
It's all right. Yeah, I've loved. It's my esteemed pleasure to welcome Daniel Spencer. Daniel and I have been friends for a couple years now. I met him through, I don't remember who introduced us, actually. Might have been Jim or John Wolf, maybe. But I think I just came across him on Facebook, and at the time I was really starting to pursue hand balancing and handstands. I should do a handstand right now, getting where I can do consistently without any falling down. 40 seconds just comes right up to me pretty easily on each try. Well, we had him out here in North Carolina in September of 2014 for a handstand, hand balancing workshop, and I had to host him in my home. He was a great guy. We had tons of really meaningful, purpose-driven conversations that went way beyond just our physical practice, that we both share enjoyment of movement culture, movement enthusiasm. So with that, I'll let Daniel take over from here, and we're going to catch up with him a little bit and see what he's been up to with his latest projects, as well as his decision to move everything in California to head to Mexico. I don't think it was he was running from the law or taxes. I think he just wanted to go to paradise. But who knows? He could be on the run. But Daniel, why don't you start off with telling us a little bit about your background, how you got into movement, why this sort of practice fits you versus maybe going to the gym and lifting weights, or just anything like that. Go ahead.
Well, thanks, Mark and Mark, for having me on. I really appreciate it. This is actually my first podcast. I've been focusing so much on the business side of things and projects and training. I'm finally able to have a place in my life where I can actually sit down and have this conversation with you two. So I'm really excited to have the opportunity. A little bit about me. I'm from California, and just, at first I lived the traditional life of, going to the gym. I wanted to get strong. I wanted to look like the guy in the magazine covers. I wanted to have the abs, and I wanted to be able to flex my muscles. And I did that for a while, but it just wasn't fulfilling. I started to not enjoy the training side of it. I started to it just didn't feel right for my body. I felt tight. I didn't feel like my own self. I didn't feel like the strength I was building in the gym was actually preparing me for life and the things that I like to do, which at the time was sports like hockey, baseball, football, all those types of things. So I was just trying to look outside the box and figure out what else is there besides just going to the gym every day and lifting the same weights, or looking at magazines and trying to focus on how I'm going to look better. So I started looking up YouTube videos and research, and started to think like, wow, like seeing like people like Ido Portal, seeing people like Erwan the Core and the GMB crew, and just being like, wow, like they can really move their bodies, and like this is something I want to have in my body, because I feel like at this time I don't feel like I have the confidence to move my body in that manner. And so to me that was an inspiration to just completely stop doing what everybody else was doing as far as training in the gym, lifting weights, and just go outside and play and find trees to climb and climb on poles, go on monkey bars, work on balance on one leg, work on single leg squats. And so for me, it was all about exploration and trying to find freedom in my body.
Yeah, that's I think one reason why you and I gel so well. That's nearly identical to my story. I just think I put a little bit more hours in the gym and a million years before I got smart about it.
Yeah, I mean, we realize we're not bodybuilders.
The body.
Yeah, we're not bodybuilders. We're not trying to be bodybuilders, and to me, I just wanted to do it for health. Like I've always looked at my training for, well, I mean, I've had some injuries from the weightlifting, and now my whole focus is the longevity. I want to be able to do what I'm doing now when I'm 80, 90 years old. So everything I do in my training is all about longevity and preparing my body so I can age gracefully.
Exactly. Yeah, I take that same approach with my students, and I want them to be, I want them to be that fit grandpa that can, toss around his grandkid and, go for a hike with the family because, they're not in pain and they don't have those years of wear and tear. And actually plan on doing an article on kind of like moderation, kind of when it comes to even fitness, like not going extreme all the time so that you can spread out that time span a lot longer. Um, Ryan Hurst is a big influence of yours, and definitely one of the primal influences in me. I found the GMB crew um, through you, actually, and Ryan actually had me on a show a few weeks ago on his podcast, and that was really cool. We hit it off. We're both Eagle Scouts, and we're kind of talking about being prepared for life and carry that in. Talk a little bit about the GMB experience, because if I remember correctly, aren't you one of one of the earliest students to become an actual teacher in that
Yeah,
program?
that is correct. I just was looking. I saw these videos and I saw these people were moving, and I was like, how am I going to get to this level? I wanted to be able to trade these skills, and it just seemed so far fetched from what I could do. And so I was so excited to find a company like Gold Medal Bodies, who their main focus is to take people, everyday people like you and me, that are not trying to be gymnasts, and we're not trying to be professional performers or anything, and just trying to be the best that we can in our bodies. And so I found their program. I tried out their Rings One program, and I just became hooked. I became so fascinated and obsessed about everything about that type of training. I love the way the strength that I build and the confidence I build in the rings. And on top of it, I really love the fact that training this way, you really have to be present in the moment. And it's not just about, okay, grabbing, some weights or grabbing something and doing, getting your 12 repetitions and checking the box and saying, okay, I'm done. It's like you have to be there. You have to feel it, because if you're not focused, you might fall, the rings are going to shake, and you're not going to be able to perform the way you want to perform. So, yeah, I started out with the Rings program, and I was fortunate enough to meet Ryan in person, and we connected from there, and he saw how passionate I was about this type of training, and he asked me to become one of their coaches. And so I was the first one to go through their certification process, and then become the first certified coach in the United States.
That's pretty cool.
Nice. And it did.
Yeah,
Oh, sorry. Did Ryan? Is that your experience with Ryan and GMB is what got you into this, or had you had some exposure to movement coaching and movement type culture before?
That's a good question. Actually, before that, I actually studied with Dido Portal. I was one of his early students, and that kind of got me down the path of looking at this type of training. I was always looking at, like I said, ways that I can challenge my body in different ways. And so this type of training really resonated with me, and I like the fact that, again, training this way is going to build my body up for the long haul. And so that's kind of where I approached it, and it just so happened that GMB was right there for me when I needed it to kind of follow along and help guide me down the process. Because I tried before finding GMB, I tried doing things on my own, and I just got frustrated. Ended up getting a couple injuries, and just trying to build the pieces for myself, and it didn't quite work the way I wanted to. And so it was nice to have that program and that confidence following a program. And now it's something that I have in my back pocket that I can share with my students to help them achieve this type of training and this freedom in their body.
yeah. I think what's cool about the GMB program is it makes, and you definitely touched on this, it makes gymnastics skills accessible for
Yep.
me at 30. I did gymnastics one summer when I was a kid, but it conflicted with another extracurricular. So for the 2 months that I did it, I didn't even get to go. Really, looking back, I definitely wish I would have stuck with it. But as a 30-year-old guy, I mean, I remember I was actually like 20. 28 when I started doing some gymnastics at just an open gym here in town that is like $10 Tuesday nights.
Nice.
Same time as we do the podcast now. Thanks, Mike. No, I'm just
Yeah,
kidding.
you're welcome.
And,
It's scary.
it's
It's scary now as an adult, right? It's like you're like,
yeah,
whoa, like, as a
it's
kid, I can throw
going
my
there.
body around a problem. You're like, I have family. I don't want to land on my neck because then I can't play with my kids. And you're like,
Right.
I don't know about this anymore. But it's nice to have somebody follow along or a coach to follow along to help guide you down that process. It's funny.
I've always been fairly athletic, and so I just kind of had this thing in my head. I was like, I am surely athletic enough to do a front flip, but I just never had been taught how to do it, and that's really what got me into gymnastics as an adult. And it was also like some parkour stuff. Those guys up there at the open gym, there are a lot of free running guys. They're
That's
great,
awesome.
great guys, very talented. And so that's kind of got hooked into it. But what I love about the GMB is it makes it accessible for an adult. Level one, I've never done this before, to start doing some gymnastics. And going back to something that's always stuck with me from one of my earliest exposures to Ito, who I had the privilege of studying with. Same summer I met you, actually. 2014 was really a big year for me in my movement.
Nice.
Because I got to study with him in Ireland, and I got to study with you later that year. But he's always said in this one conversation, he's like, you can play sports with other kids, but the gymnastics kids, they can do what you can do probably better than your sport, but you can't even touch what they're doing. Like
Totally.
you got an 11-year-old that's been doing gymnastics since he's 3. He might be able to go out there and play pickup basketball with you, and you might be really good at basketball. He'll still be competitive, but you can't even do like their most basic skill. Like you probably can't even hold a hollow body. You know what I mean? Like it's just it's crazy. And then when he said that, I was like, it's one of those obvious statements, but when you hear it from somebody else, it clicks so much harder. And I was like, yeah, that's like the first time I ever touched rings. Like, holy shit, these guys make it look easy on TV.
Yep.
And I mean, like the most basic, like just a dip on it, just hold or a lockout position. Was a struggle in the beginning when I first started doing ring work. Just to get up there and get that, thumbs turned out a little bit. And my scapula's back, and now it's just awful.
Oh, I'm really glad you touched upon that, because that's one of the things I really focus on in my training too. Is that I know that if I train my body this way, which is a lot more unconventional and more challenging than most people might, I'm strong for whatever I want to do. I already have the confidence and I have the coordination that I've developed through this type of training that if somebody says, let's go rock climbing, let's do this, let's go climb a tree, let's go swimming in the ocean, I feel I'm more prepared for those types of tasks than I would be if I was just doing a simple thing. If I was just going to the gym and lifting weights every day. I mean, and you just get tighter and tighter and tighter. So I feel I'm more prepared for life by training this way. And one of my students I was working with today, we're working on the rings, and she first came to me, she was shaking on the rings, doing all that stuff, and we've been working for a while. And today I'm like, okay, you're gonna do this. She looked at me and she's like, what? There's no way. I'm just like, no, just do this. Jump up, squeeze the rings in, push up, boom, solid. She jumped to top position, and she looked at me and she's just like, whoa, I did not have done that before I even started training with you, And so now it opens up a whole new door. It opens up some confidence in her that she'd never had before in her abilities. And so it's just an awesome thing to share with people, which I really love about this type of training, is sharing with people and just getting that aha moment where they're like, I can do that, and it just gives them, it's like I said, it just empowers them, it gives them the confidence to just have something that they can either, if they want to, they can show their family members and be like, look what I've been working on, and it's a really cool thing to share with people.
Yeah, when you give your student the right tools,
Yep.
It's like a lot of my females, they come in with, very poor upper body strength, and then one day I'll be like, okay, you're going to do a chin-up today. And they're like, I've never done one before. And then, bam, there it is. Usually not one, usually it's 2 or 3 the first time I actually give the command to go ahead and do it. But all the tools have been laid for it. And it's funny. It's like, I don't know. It's kind of like, a big secret they don't know as a coach. And it's like, I know you can do it 100%. Because we've laid the foundation for it. But it's still the reaction and the look on their face is so satisfying.
You're taking off the parking brakes, right? Or you're kind of opening up the new ways. You're like, let's try it out now.
Things they couldn't do before. that sparks that curiosity, that childlike curiosity, like, oh, what else can I do now? I didn't know I could do
Well,
this.
that
What now can I do? And then they start to explore, which is what you said in the very beginning. Your movement practice is based on exploratory movement. You're just trying new movement patterns for the sake of trying new movement patterns, so that you can be more prepared for anything life throws at you.
exactly,
And
and
a
that's
lot of
what
people don't
yeah.
investigate exploratory movements.
Nope, not at all. And that's what I love about teaching handstand, and I've learned from all these hand balancers, circus performers, and all sorts of things, is they've given me these tools to share with students. And like I said, the handstand is like so empowering. It's like one of those things where you're telling your body to just put your hands on the ground, and you're going to go ahead and stand on your hands. Like that's just so like far from anybody's thought process, but during the course of a workshop, you see people's confidence grow, and you give them these little tools, you give them the stepping stones. So at the end of the workshop, they're so much farther along than they would be if they didn't take that workshop. You're saving them so many years of frustration and breaking down that psychological barrier to like, yes, I can do this, and empowering them. And that's just what I love to see, as people at the end, I spot them or they're trying handstands in their own, they're like, oh my gosh, I know what to do now, and they're so excited to practice. And that's what I love as a coach and a teacher, is that enthusiasm, that's what fuels me.
Is your message and this style of training hard to get past the resistance for a lot of people who are used to traditional training, used to lifting a lot of weights, that they may not be able to see the value in it or warm up to the idea of adding it to their program?
It's challenging, the hardest part is getting them in the door, and showing them, having them show up to class. But once they show up to class, then they look at me and they're like, that was much harder than I thought it was, because they see me do it and like, oh, you make it look so easy, and then they try it, and then they just haven't developed that mind-body awareness, and so it's kind of, they're like, whoa, why should I should be able to do that, and they're simple movements, but they have the thing like, like you said, if you're an athlete, like, I should be able to do this, but I'm struggling with this, or it opens up like something they didn't think about. Oh, wow, my hamstrings are really inflexible. Or I can't even get to a squat. Like, this is something I should be able to do. And so it's more about just getting them to step in the door is just the challenging part. Once they're in the door, once they're there, then they love it. They want to learn as much as they can, and they want to keep growing it. But there is also that part of, I want to get that good sweat on. I want to feel like it worked out, and it's kind of changing the paradigm. Like, you don't need to go 100%. You don't need to be sweating on the ground and can't move after a good workout. We're working your body in different ways that you're just going to keep getting stronger and keep progressing, and that's all we're after. We're not trying to just get you tired from a workout. We're trying to improve and build movement patterns in your body.
Yeah, and you're doing all the same thing. You're working their cardiovascular system. You're building muscle. You're just doing it in a different way. So maybe connecting the dots doesn't always happen right away until they get on the floor and start doing it.
Yep, definitely. Yeah, that's what we do. Is we just kind of like, as good teachers, we know what they want. So we give them what they want, but we also give them what they need. And we just find that balance between making sure they get what they want and have what they need, so that way they continue to enjoy. It's all about enjoying. We want to make sure they enjoy it too. We don't want to be like, oh, I have to go to class and we're doing this workout or whatever, and I hate running or something. It's like, no, let's enjoy this. Let's have fun with this, and let's keep variety. I want to keep variety, but I also want to keep the movements. We want to practice the same movements so that way they get familiar with them, rather than having them learn so many different movements and they don't get good at anything. It's all about exposing them to the right amount of movements as well.
Yeah, it's definitely you get the looks like you're talking with, and you have two heads. Sometimes you're explaining this to somebody that is very conventional in their thought process. But like you said, once you can get them in the door and can show them, hey, look, this is. I always tell people, it's like, let me show you instead of say to you. Like,
yep.
If I can show you what I can do it much easier than I can explain it to you, because you need to feel this from within of what's going on in your body and the adjustments that are happening. And maybe you've been in pain for 15 years, and all of a sudden you did something that you haven't done.
Yep.
In a decade and a half, and you did it pain-free because of our expertise with patterns and movement. But even that being said, and how good we are at what we do. I've still got clients been with me 3 years, and it's still once in a while it's like, I didn't really get that sweaty today. I must not have done anything. And it's trying to change. You're not changing a paradigm or a dogma that is just that person. You're changing, 50, 60 years of a modality of thinking
Yep.
that it's like it's packed in generation on generation. It's not just that person. It's an industry that for 60 years has said, well, if I'm not crushing it, I'm not really doing anything today. And then really in the last, at the beginning of this millennia, I think it's even gotten more extremist. It's like you've got to go absolutely berserk. If you just look at the industry as a whole, it is very much an extremist mentality
Hmm.
across the board in all areas. I mean, even yoga. Let's take yoga for example. Yoga is supposed to be the kind of docile, preparation for meditation. That's what its origins are. And now it's like hot yoga is like, oh man, I finally got a good sweat going in yoga. It's like, you should warm the body up a little bit, but you don't have to leave a puddle. It doesn't have to look like you're out of the pool. I do think there are benefits to. I think there's some benefits to doing hot yoga, but that's one small example of this extremist approach that we've run into now.
Yeah,
Yep.
I agree. Like you've got, I can think of four easy ones. You have bodybuilding on one side, you've got the CrossFit on another, you've got marathoners and ultra endurance athletes, and then you've got the ultra spiritual yogis. And like you were saying, Daniel, training for longevity. There's things within each one of those where they're all missing certain elements, or they're all doing something too much to where they're taking away from their life force, if you will, instead of adding to it.
Yeah, I would agree with that 100%. I'm glad you mentioned that because during this journey that I've been on of learning about the human potential and trying to, just learn what these bodies are really capable of, I've actually been exploring a lot of standing meditations, and I'm fortunate enough there's a guy out here in Mexico that's teaching some qigong, so I'm practicing some qigong, adding that to my morning routine, and some martial arts of Wing Chun. So I really enjoyed that aspect of it, and just seeing how that impacts, my life, and how I can sprinkle that in with my clients, here or there, with the not getting too woo-woo-y or anything like that, and trying to show like, yeah, let's work on these types of movements as well, and let's incorporate this into the training as well. It's not
I
just
saw you
about.
working some of the breathing techniques of Qui-Gon in one of your videos recently this week. And I mean, that's again something great you can extrapolate from anything. And like Mike said a little bit ago, you've got those kind of examples where there's four extremes. There's extremes in all different things. Um, but if you just kind of draw like a circle, and if you had like four cubes and you drew a circle that passed through all those cubes, you would have something wonderfully beneficial in each aspect of it. You know, when I think of bodybuilding, of course, that was a world I was immersed in for a while, working in Gold's Gym for years.
Hmm.
The discipline of a bodybuilder. It's like if a human being can have like a fraction of the discipline that a bodybuilder has, there's so much shit they could get done in their life. I mean, the amount of time and energy that they spend, it's always fascinated me. I feel like I'm almost too ADHD for it sometimes. I'm like, but my hat's off to that. That's just one area, that I could think of borrowing from that modality of thinking and training. It's like
Yeah.
that more discipline in your life.
Totally. That's
And it,
another thing. Go ahead, Mark.
oh, all I was just gonna say is that, yeah, and even bodybuilding. I mean, if you take any of those modalities that I mentioned, there is value in lifting heavy stuff. I guess it's just how you use it and what you're mixing it with, and not leaving some of these other pieces out.
Exactly. Yeah,
Even
it's
the
all.
yogis need to lift weights once in a while.
Yep, exactly. They definitely need to lift weights, and they need to actually, move outside the box of their mats. There a lot of yoga is like, okay, you're on this mat and you're not supposed to leave the mat, but there's a lot more fun things you can do where you're exploring outside the mat. And so, being down here in this town, there's a lot of yogis here yoga is really popular here. So it's really good and exciting to work with the yoga population and kind of open their mind and just be like, oh yeah, there is more things besides yoga, and they see that the training that I share with them helps them in their yoga practice, or helps them in their acro yoga practice, or in other areas of their life. So it's really cool to see, be able to share that with the different community down here. A lot of my online students that I work with, they come to me for certain goals, and we, go back and we slowly integrate these different recovery techniques, these breathing techniques, and want to give them the whole piece of the puzzle rather than just like, okay, let's just focus on, we're just going to work on a handstand. No, 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 there's other things. Like, I want to make sure, I want to talk to them, I want to make sure I know exactly how much time they have in their life, like how stressful is their life. I want to make sure I can accommodate their lifestyle to make sure I can give them success. It's not about like cramming a square plug down a circular hole. It's just not going to work, So we have to make sure that we life and everything like that, and that life training, family, just so we can have a successful student, and that everybody gets the best of it.
Speaking of training, Daniel, I saw, I think it was today, a testimony from Benny Ferguson regarding the tension release technique. Did I get that right?
That's correct. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That it was just a brief little testimonial about your progress and everything, but it really seemed to fascinate me a little bit. Can you talk about that? I know it's not the question I sent you, but
sure.
So you talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so Benny Ferguson has been, I've been fortunate enough to connect him through this movement, family and network that we have here, and I've talked to him a couple Skype calls. We always had really good conversations, really deep conversations, and he's slowly sprinkled in some of the stuff he's been working on, and a lot of people on Facebook, Instagram, they're working on certain skills like handstands and all these cool like circus type movements, and he's like, no, I've just been working on some standing meditations and some more Tai Chi, like internal martial arts. And I was like, oh wow, that's really cool. That's something I've never really explored. I mean, I'm always looking to challenge myself in different ways. So we've been saying conversation, we connected, and he's like, I'm about to release this program, and I want to see if you'd like to be a beta tester for it. And for me, it wasn't about learning a new skill from him. It was just about trying this technique and applying it in my life and seeing how it affected my life. Obviously, and it came at the perfect time because moving to a whole other country with just a couple suitcases, your girlfriend, your dog, and you're just trying to start a new life. It's very stressful, and obviously living in a different climate. Very challenging human climate it just used to, and so it was a great tool to help me adapt with that and grow in that process rather than not succeed.
Awesome. All right, so you've alluded to it about 3 or 4 different times. We've talked about you moving to Mexico. So from an outsider looking in, you basically had the balls to do what most of us don't, and that's to pick up everything, follow your dream, follow your passion, and go live it out. Let's see if we can reach our audience, and maybe we've got a listener that's thinking about doing something like that. They just don't have the nuts to do it. And what would you recommend as I pull the trigger on that?
So just a little backstory. This is one of those circumstances where it was kind of like there was a catalyst behind it. We were in a situation in Silicon Valley where it's rather expensive. We were under rent control, and our landlords basically gave us 3 months saying they wanted to sell the property. So we didn't have much time to really save up to try to find another place. And if we did, it's so expensive that we would just be stressing and working so hard just to have a roof over our heads. And so my girlfriend and I, we decided that just wasn't, what's the point of that? Sure, it's nice to have a great house, but if you're working 40, 80 hours a week just so you can have a nice house over your head and you don't even have time to enjoy it, then what's the purpose? So my friend had property down here in Mexico, and he just threw it out there on a whim. I just told him the situation. He's like, I have a house here. You can stay for the summer. I'll give it to you for this much. Try it out for 5 months, see how it goes, and it's just like, at first it's like, it wasn't even an opportunity, didn't even think about it. We're trying to figure out how to make it work in our current situation, and my girlfriend and I looked at each other and we're just like, you know what, why not? What do we have to lose, If we don't, it's one of those things where if you don't take that choice, take that chance, you're going to be regretting it for the rest of your life. So it's like, what do we have to lose? The worst we have to lose is we go down there, we hate it, we come back, we hit the reset button, and we start it up again, So, yeah, took a lot of, balls and confidence to know that we were going to be able to make it work. And it's just one of those things you just have to trust your intuition and get excited about it and just follow through with it. Don't let anything hold you back. If it's something you really want to do, you just got to take the plunge.
You,
And
you
it's a lot
said you
easier.
said it.
Yeah, it's easier said than done, but I mean, life is too short, and you just really have to do it. If that's something that you really want, it's in your heart, and you really want to do, then it's got to be done.
You said the key thing though. The key thing was it was you weren't afraid to fail.
Yeah.
Like you said, it's the worst case scenario, which I think that is what holds people back is they're afraid of failure. They're afraid of the unknown. Like, what if I do fail? And you said, okay, if we go down here in 5 months, we hate it, we just reset. Like, okay, that was the worst case scenario. Is it didn't work out, and and that would be the definition of failing. And it didn't work out. You know, you weren't able to make a life for yourself, make it work. But you were okay with that, and I think that's the key. That's what most people are lacking is that they are just terrified of it not working out.
Yeah, and I mean it's one of those things. I wasn't always like that. I used to be very much in my comfort zone. I had to make sure everything was the way I wanted it to be, and didn't want to take those big chances because I didn't want to fail. I didn't want to look like a failure. And so to me, it was just like, I'm gonna do this. You know, I don't care. It's in my heart. I know I need to do this, and this is what we need to do. So yeah, for all those people out there that are scared to fail, it's okay to fail. If you know, don't worry. It's all gonna work out in the end the way it's supposed to.
How long have you been down there?
It's actually it's quite funny. This podcast is going to be tomorrow is going to be our 1 year anniversary of being down here in Mexico. We moved here on June 1st.
Awesome talk.
Yeah, congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
it's been a journey.
Mike is really into minimalizing your lifestyle, and you're living a very minimalist lifestyle. You said you went down with what, 2 suitcases a piece? Is that about it?
2 suitcases total, 1 suitcase apiece,
Oh,
and then we had a backpack. Yeah, we had our backpacking backpacks, and then I had like a little small backpack, and she had a small backpack, and one of the suitcases was filled with our dog's crate. Oh, and our dog. So yeah, we basically had to like put the stuff in storage that we knew we weren't going to use, and put everything in the center of the floor, and that what are we going to need in 5 months? Not knowing what exactly we're going to need, but what do we think we're going to need? And that was a big challenge, like not knowing what we're going to need, But we knew that the climate's pretty hot down here, so we knew we didn't bring our winter clothes, that's for sure. So that was kind of easy. But yeah, minimalist lifestyle is a challenging thing to do, but putting yourself in a situation like this where you're making a big move, you really have to feel and value what's important in life. Like, what do you need to survive on? Is your iPad or your fancy whatever it may be, is it really that important? Can you still be happy without it, basically, And that this move kind of forced us to really think about things in a different light.
Were you surprised with how much you actually need from day to day? I mean, it's sometimes I'm like, what else can I get rid of in this house? And then sometimes I still stumble with, I can't get rid of that. I might need it 6 months from now. And then a year will go by, and I haven't touched it, and I still can't part with it.
Yeah, I'm mad at that.
Go ahead. Yeah, that was me my whole life, basically. Like, I just didn't want to throw things away. I'm just like, oh, like you said, I'm going to need this in like a year. I haven't used this in a year, but I really value this, and I know I'm going to need this. And my girlfriend's really good about, when's the last time you used this? Have you used this? Do you plan on using this? I'm like, well, I want to. She's like, nope, it's gone. And so she's been a good influence on me in that aspect. Yeah, basically, you really don't need that much. Obviously, we need our computers for work and business. Need some money, shoes, shorts and flip-flops, and a tank top. And sometimes I don't need more shoes, right? Yeah, I mean, that's all you really need, right? As long as you have food in your belly, you have money in your wallet, and you're clothed enough, and you have a roof over your head, that's all you need.
Yeah, that's a pretty powerful message. Being around the financial industry, you see a lot of people who have. I've seen a lot of people who have. They're in financial trouble for one reason or another, and almost 99% of the time, it's because they've been living this American life obsession, and they accumulated all this debt and all this financial trouble, just accumulating stuff, and I think people would be a lot happier. On top of it, would solve 90% of their problems if they just could break. It's kind of like the fitness training, breaking what you've
Mhm.
been programmed to believe you need to do to be happy. Um, so I admire the fact that you could, just pick up, grab a bag, and leave, and without having. I'm sure you had some anxiety, but
Oh yeah.
of leaving all that stuff behind, because I mean, like I
Yeah,
just said, yeah.
the biggest challenge for I mean I agree with you like definitely you really people definitely would be much happier if they really didn't have all these things that they have like the fancy TVs or the cars or the fancy house or things like that. Like living in Mexico in this town in this community, you realize how happy people are, and they don't have the things that we have back home. They don't have fancy TVs or cars. They're happy with sitting outside having great conversations with their family and enjoying the sunset, maybe having a beer or two, and that's to them that's happiness. Or if they have time, they'll go fishing in the morning. They're not chasing the American dream. They're just a lot of them are. It's interesting. A lot of people are really talented artisans down here, and they'll make these amazing things, and people come to them like, oh, I want you to make like 100 of these. I'll pay you this much money. They're like, nah, I don't want to do that. That's just too much work. I'd rather just give you like 25 and you can pay me this much. And as long as I have enough food to feed my family, I'm okay. And that's a totally different type of mindset, right? Like most
Hmm.
people think the opposite. Like, oh yeah, yeah, okay. So if I do 100, I'm gonna work really hard. I'm gonna make this much money, and then I'll be happy. It's like no, no, no. They're like, let me be happy now. I don't want to be like stressed out for 2 months just so I can have more money in my bank account. So
In
it's
America, we'd
definitely
be like, I've
living
got
down
a
here.
basket franchise here.
Exactly. They look at it like, oh, this is such a great money-making opportunity. I can do this, I can do this, I can do this. But then they're stressing themselves out and they're missing the sunset or they're missing the sunrise, or they're missing a beautiful thunderstorm. What's the point, right?
Yeah, I mean, and don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with being wealthy or having things or
Oh
even
yeah.
having nice stuff. I think it's how much importance you put on it,
Yeah.
and if it's all consuming and you spend every waking free day at the mall trying to, I think in Fight Club there's a scene where Edward Norton's talking about it. He's like, if only I have the perfect coffee table and the perfect chair and the perfect dishes, then I'll be happy.
Yeah.
And you keep going down that list and you keep accumulating and you never get to that point. And then you're old and broke and where'd your life go?
No, I agree with that 100%. Like if you're able to follow your passion, live your dream, and make enough money that can have those nice things and don't feel like you're working a day in your life, by all means do it. Like there's nothing wrong with that at all. That's all something we should also strive for.
Yeah, I mean, I work really hard just to be broke. I'm just trying to get to that level.
Yeah,
But I'm
yeah.
happy, man. My kids are healthy, my wife's healthy, and the
You're
bills
rich.
are pretty much paid most of the time. So I can't complain. I think our checklist monthly is food in the fridge, bills paid, gas in the tank. I think that's it. Like we hit those three things, it's at the end of the day not a bad month.
You're a rich man, my friend.
Yeah, I got great kids, man. So that's worth it all there.
Yep.
And I get to be outside a lot, which is awesome. I know a lot of people get stuck inside. I think that deters from. Actually, that's one of Mike's articles. 10 things to improve your life. It was getting outside more and having less stuff. Those were two of his big points.
That was another decision for me moving down here as well. It's like, I'm a trainer, I'm a coach, I'm a teacher, and I just didn't want to be in the gym all day working. Like here I can there's a nice gym here, it's inside outside, or we can do stuff at the beach, or there's all these other opportunities to train people in the natural settings. And to me that was really exciting to not have to be in the gym all day, training people. And I get
So
to actually put my feet in the sand or do those.
Daniel, is it
Yes.
as cool as Asylum Fitness?
Well, of course not.
Okay, all right. I just want to know. Still got the coolest gym on the planet.
Oh man, totally, man.
It's
No,
awesome.
nothing like climbing trees out in the woods. I mean, that's the.
I can't wait to go back. I can't wait to come back, Mark.
I know, dude. We gotta get that set up, man. Need to
Totally, totally.
come
So
out.
where do you have your own studio, Daniel? Do you work out of work at a resort? Where are you at?
No, so obviously the biggest challenge, one of the biggest challenges for me down here was where I'm gonna hang my rings, and so So I went on a little journey around town, looking around at all the trees, and the trees just weren't that were right to me. I found a couple palapas that were private, and I tried to hang my rings there, and people were like, "No, you can't do that here. It's too dangerous." And I was like, "Well, this is Mexico. Come on, you know." So I was walking around, and there's a gym at the end of town. It's a local CrossFit. Monkey bars. I see parallel bars. I see all this cool structure, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is perfect. This is awesome. I go inside, talk to the owner. I tell him who I am, what I've been doing, and he's super stoked to have me there. I look inside. I see he's got like 6 sets of rings, and I'm like, all right. He's like, let's get some classes going, you know. And so that's where I do most of my training. And then a lot of times, you know, it's nice talking about the minimalist lifestyle. I'm a minimalist trainer. I don't need to have a bunch of equipment to work with me. I'm pretty much, as long as I have, you know, maybe a mat or something, we can get a good workout in. So I'll go to some people's houses and train with them at their houses or that type of thing, or meet them on the beach or things like that. So there's a lot of opportunities down here, yeah.
And what's the fitness culture like? It's probably a lot different than America in general, or is it very similar and very Western?
It's still a little behind the curve, but right now CrossFit's really big, so everybody's doing the CrossFit training, and they're really enjoying the CrossFit, and the more is better, and heavier. And so I'm really fortunate to work with a trainer that, you know, he does CrossFit, he lifts all these heavy weights, but he's open to new areas of training. You know, he knows that the fact that he can't get into a squat comfortably is not okay. You know, he realizes that, okay, this isn't okay, or he can't get his shoulders fully open to do a handstand, you know, without arching his back. He knows, you know, that's something he should work on. So he's open to it, and he allows me to work with the athletes. And when I work with the athletes, they're like, that was harder workout than my CrossFit workout, you know? Like, to them, I see their workout, and they're lifting all this weight, doing all this stuff. I'm like, that looks crazy hard. And they come to me afterwards like, that was so much harder than anything I've ever done. And so it just kind of changes the paradigm. They're like, oh, wow, like, yeah, I should work on this type of stuff. And obviously the yoga community is big down here, and then there's some kickboxing classes, beach classes, and some high-intensity classes, Pilates classes. So there's a pretty wide range of fitness opportunities down here.
Well, yeah, a little bit everything there.
Well, I'm by far the weird one, you know. Everybody's like, what are you doing? Like, you know, they know me as a handstand guy or flexibility guy. So slowly the word's getting out there, you know. But yeah, there's a lot of
the weird guy
to work down here.
Yeah, well, the CrossFit community too, for as much shit as they get for some of the Olympic lifting, they're probably one of the more open-minded groups as far as accepting movement. I mean, they have Mobility WOD with Kelly Starrett stuff.
Yeah, he's done a really good job kind of bridging the gap of like the CrossFit training to like opening up, like, we should be able to move our bodies. These are natural range of motions we should have in our bodies. So he's done a good job bridging the gap for people like myself to kind of like, oh, let's try this, let's explore this, because without Kelly Starrett, then people would be like, no, that's silly, that's dumb, that's body weight, I want to get strong, you know? So I think he's done a really good job in that area, and for me, working with the CrossFit athletes has been great, because helping them with their handstands or with their muscle up, they come to me because they want these skills, and they see me doing it, and they're like, oh, I want to do that, and so they're like, okay, I understand, I need to train it a different way and not just go balls to the wall every time. I have to like program it in there too.
I've definitely seen that openness in the CrossFit community, in the culture, kind of grow and expand the last 2 years. I've seen that really kind of openness more or less does tie the decent supple effort.
Right. Yep.
Which is helpful, and then like you said, I mean, it's also where you're at. You know, some coaches are more open, some coaches aren't. But you know, I think as a whole, there's more openness. My town still very slow to adapt. It's a beach spot. It's just hard to overcome that. So
yeah. Well, one of the benefits. Yeah, one of the benefits of this type of training, is obviously you're training to move better, but your body's going to change as well. Like we're not training to be aesthetic, for the aesthetics, but that's just another side benefit of the training, right? We're going to move our bodies in full range of motion. We're going to get stronger in full range of motion, and our bodies are going to respond in a positive way. So we are definitely getting them beach body ready if they want to be, but they can also
Yeah,
do a
my
lot more
shoulders
than
and upper back saw the most development when I started doing a lot of hand balance and stuff. Um,
yeah.
and when I started, actually my shoulders definitely got a lot wider when I started doing a lot of hams and work. And that was because I didn't have the muscles there that needed to they had developed. It's like they were being recruited in a much different way than anything I've ever done.
Yeah, I mean, and like you said, you worked on your mobility with the handstands. What a better way to work on your shoulder mobility, with handstands rather than like you're working on just shoulder mobility for shoulder mobility's sake. Now you got a skill out of it, and now your body's getting stronger and adapting and improving. So I look at the handstands as a great way to work on that shoulder mobility. But again, which is going to help people later on in life. It's going to prepare their wrists so that way if something happens, they fall as they get older, they're prepared. Their bodies are more prepared. And so that's the way I look at it.
Yeah, weak wrists are amazingly prevalent, shockingly prevalent in our society. We actually do a lot of the wrist prep stuff you taught me. That's step one in our warm up, and then our warm up goes on from there to like hip and shoulder work as
Awesome.
well. But we start with the wrist stuff because I'm like, man, these people have been sitting at desks for like, man, these
Hey,
people have
Mark,
been sitting at desks
do you hear a little echo? Do you hear an echo?
Yeah, it's been echoing for about 6 minutes.
Okay, yeah, I guess when you're not talking, you mute your microphones real quick and see if we can't clear it up.
Okay.
It might fix it. Okay. All right, Mark. Go ahead.
All right, let's see if that fixes it. So yeah, I was saying the wrists are so weak when people are coming in, and the reason I have it as step one in the warm up is a lot of our stuff we do, the locomotions and the crawls. I mean, even in the warm up, there's wrist prep, and then like I said, hip and shoulder work, and then towards the end there's some locomotions. That's where we start to get the heart rate up a little bit and get them moving a little bit better. I've already prepared the wrist before that point. And
Yeah.
and so it's just one of those things that I think that's by far the most effective. So if you can play on your hands more, they will get stronger.
Yep. And that's one thing I love sharing with the community out here, just different people. Like like I said, maybe they're labor workers that had lived a tough life and lifting things all the time, or they're spending time on the computers and doing these types of warm-ups. It's going to help them with their wrists, so that we don't have these injuries. Or if they want to do advanced things, it's going to help their CrossFit. They're going to have more mobility in their front, holding the front rack position, like all these types of things. But most important for me is the reason why I value it so much is I had some weak wrists when I started too, and I knew that was a limiting factor, so I wanted to make sure that I never had that problem. So I'm very diligent about doing the wrist prep myself and with my students, because I don't want a wrist or anything like that to hold me back from doing the things that I love to do.
Well, no, you were saying about aesthetics. If people are worrying about aesthetics, being able to stand up straight and have posture and not forehead and kyphotic curve. I mean, these kinds of things can you'll look a lot better at 50 and 60 if you're able to unwind some of that damage.
Yeah, I 100% agree. That's you look at somebody aging, you see that they're like a really good posture, and you like maybe ask them, what do you do? And they find out they're like a gymnast. And so that's another thing is you see these people, they age really well because they've built that foundation from doing the hollow bodies, preparing their shoulders, working the mobility, working that flexibility. They're just preparing their bodies for the long haul. Or any sort of martial arts, you'll notice that you look at their shoulder level, and most people we're too busy, we're too much upper trap and upper cervical dominant. We're always scrunching our shoulders up, looking at different things or the computer. And if you look at a martial artist, their shoulders are dropped straight down. You're just nice and flat, and then you just see that, and you're like, wow, like that looks really nice and relaxed, rather than being up here all the time and stressed out, right? So, you know, that's another thing is the aesthetic side of things too. You're just preparing your body to to move better and to live better.
I think
Uh,
I think you can definitely see it. Somebody that is comfortable with their body, and they open and loose and sit there. Even like watching them walk down the street, like man, they look like they're not bound up, and they look like they have freedom. And then, a guy like yourself, I've seen you. I've had the pleasure of seeing you move live, where it's so loose, but it's also so connected. Like each move is just seamless to the next transition, and that's kind of that freedom that I always talk about as a coach. It's like what I want you to do is be able to do whatever you're asking your body to do. I want you to have the freedom to do. And so that's kind of what we're going for. Yeah, handstands are awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Unfortunately, people, we're just too much in our heads. We don't connect to our bodies, or we're just our talking heads, and our bodies are just a way to go to work or go get food or, you know, things like that, rather than incorporating our minds with our bodies. And a lot of people are disconnected to their bodies. They think they're in control, and you tell them to do a simple thing like move your right arm and left arm in two different directions, and they're looking at you like you're asking them to stand on their head, you know. And these are basic patterns that we just don't develop, and we lose that connection over time because we're not aware of what's going on in our bodies. And so that's why I love this type of training. That's why I love to share with people, is give them the opportunity to get back in their bodies and reconnect, you know, and have that awareness again.
Rafe Kelly, who you actually introduced me to, he said, "Hey man, you might want to check this guy out. He seems right in your wheelhouse." I did. We became friends. He came out for a workshop came out and taught a workshop last fall for us. He said something that just kind of stuck with me. He was talking about, he was using jump as an example, how we teach it and it's all frontal lobe, like here, we're trying to think about it, but it needs to be back here. It needs to be subconscious. Like you just do it. You don't think about the process and what you're doing. That movement should be unconscious and just happen. And like you're saying, we cloud everything up. We live right here. And it's like, oh wait, I need to put my right hand in front of my left knee, and then just break it down. It turns it's like an awkward game of Twister when people first start approaching movement. And as it should be, because it's so unfamiliar, there's no way to bypass that part. But eventually you will bypass. Eventually you will move past it, and it will become subconscious, and people start to move more freely.
Yeah, that's so cool. I'm so glad that you were able to connect with Rafe. You know, I'm always happy to start people that I have big influences in, and I'm inspired by. So I'm excited to hear that you guys got to connect, and I'm sure you had some wonderful conversations. I was fortunate enough to take one of it. Yeah, and I'm unfortunate. I want to take another one of his workshops, but I just haven't had the opportunity yet. But that's definitely on my list of things to do, and it's definitely a big inspiration of mine. And I like what you said about that. Yeah, it's like, it's initially it might not happen. Your left leg and your right arm are going to feel foreign to you, but with more practice, you're going to build that pattern, and you're going to be reconnected, and you're going to be able to have that control of your body again.
Hey Mark, do you have? We're getting pretty close to an hour. Did we cover everything we wanted to, or question? Pretty close to an hour. Did we cover everything we wanted to, or question?
Yeah, I have one more question. What I guess is your? Yeah, I have one more question. What is your next project, or what's the next step now that you're there and somewhat have established yourself? Anything you're working on special you'd like to share, or is it you might be working on something secret? Who knows?
Well, I'm actually really glad you asked that, because I've actually been working on my own program of the influences that I've learned from my coaches, kind of taking pieces from here and there and applying it to my own practice and seeing how it benefited me, and now I have the opportunity to share it with others. So I'm really excited about sharing that with everybody, and it's something I highly value, and I know that people will get some really good results from it. I've already had some really good feedback from it, and so I'm really excited to work on that in the future. On top of the program, I've just been busy working on these retreats. So we offer, one of the things about moving down here is we wanted to host these retreats. We wanted to get people to come down here and take a reset, unplug, just see what it's like to not be on your computer. Like, let's go explore these jungles. Let's also get connected to the culture down here. A lot of people, they're so used to living in a certain lifestyle of their routine. Let's kind of change the routine out. They come down here, we pick them up from the airport, we give them the movement training. My girlfriend and I, we have like superfood talks. There's a lot of amazing superfoods down here that we share with them. We go over a lot of different recovery, breathing techniques, qigong, meditations. We'll take them on take them to these private beaches, and just have an opportunity to connect on a whole different level, and just to let them see that there's more to life than just whatever it may be that they're currently doing. And yeah, that's one thing we're really passionate about, and we're excited to continue to host these retreats in the next couple years.
Yeah, I saw the invite for the first one. That thing looked pretty sweet. When is the next one scheduled, and how can people find more about it?
So the next one's going to be October 13th, sorry, and you can go ahead and send me an email at traveltrainretreat@gmail.com, and then you can ask for the information. We'll be happy to send you the information. Another thing about this experience, if we want to make it a local experience, it's not going to be, we don't want this to be like, okay, we're going to stay at this fancy hotel, you're going to get, catered meals, and you're not going to have to move or work or sweat. We want people to have a local experience, so we've built these connections and expanded our network so that way we can share these local knowledge with people. We've met there's this guy on the beach, he does this clay massages using bentonite clay from hot springs, so he'll give us massages on the beach, which are just amazing for the body, amazing for the recovery. And that's the thing, is we want to get people to have like a local, sacred, ancient experience. It's all about the experience,
I think that's so enriching too, to be immersed a time period into kind of your lives. People come to
exactly.
Say, hey, this is what I do. This is a daily day for me. That immersion. And also, any chance you get to unplug, I got to almost unplug. I was about 97% unplug this Memorial Day weekend. It was just great to have 3 days where I wasn't like this, because unfortunately this is what our society has become. Business owner. Hate it, but it's also very necessity at times.
Just like you said, and we eat well. We want them to show them like this amazing town has to offer, and yeah, there's just there's more to life than whatever you're currently doing, and we want to share that with people. We want to let people swim on the beach and not have to worry about anything else at home, and just like, okay, this is me, just let me relax.
Right.
And but again, we don't want it to be just about training. Like so many times, the training becomes like the forefront in our life, but it shouldn't be. There's so much more to life than just training all day, spending time in the gym. We want to show people the balance of everything.
I think that's very unique to what you're doing, and also super cool idea, man.
Thanks, man. Thanks. It's a big passion of ours, and we're excited to share that with people.
Mike, I think that wraps up the questions I had for Daniel. Did you have anything to add?
No, I just want to thank Daniel for coming on. It's a pleasure to meet you and hear your story. It's very inspiring. And maybe sometime we'll get to come down and try out one of your retreats.
You're most welcome. I appreciate you having me on the podcast, and I hope I was able to share some insight and inspire some people from your audience. And we'd love to have you down here and show you the slightly to life, man. It'd be great to have you guys down here. I know you guys, it's humid out in North Carolina, so you guys would fit right in with this humidity.
He lives in Denver.
Oh, you're in Denver. Okay, well then.
Yeah, I'm in Denver. I'm dry. I have to wear, coconut oil and chapstick 365 days a year to avoid being ashy.
Okay. Well, yeah, Mark will fit right in. Mark will have no problem.
Yeah, I'm good, man. I welcome you.
Another thing about being down here is just you can't train all day. It's too hot. It's too humid. Your body just can't handle it. So you have to balance it all. You have to figure out how am I going to balance it all. Like, So it's been a great challenge, and it's really been a great move for us to find that balance.
Man, thanks for coming on our show, and I think you definitely were able to touch some lives through your message and your words and your passion. And we'll get in touch soon, man. I do want to think about getting you back out to North Carolina now that you've had a year. Now that you've had a year to adjust to humidity.
Let's do it, man. Let's do it. I'm ready to sweat. It's it's one of those things. People come out there and the humidity is very challenging for them, and so we accommodate them with that. Make sure they're drinking enough water and drinking fresh coconuts and things like that. But yeah, the humidity is it's eye-opening. It'll take you out of your comfort zone, but it's really good for your mind, body, and soul.
Definitely. All right. I think that's about it. Thanks again, man.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thanks, Daniel. All right. See ya.